The source or fountain of power in the universe is singular. It is a unity. All that exists is ex autou, out of him. This principle reveals the profound truth that creation is ex deo, from the corporeal substance of Theos. Contrary to the orthodox theological concept of creatio ex nihilo, creation from nothing, this perspective affirms that all things proceed from God's own being. The false teaching that matter is God, pantheism, misunderstands this relationship. By conflating God with his creation, this view erroneously attributes divinity to physical objects perceived through the senses. On the other hand, many also falsely declare that God is immaterial, portraying him as a formless and insubstantial entity, an abstraction akin to nothingness. These views fail to grasp the biblical truth of God's corporeality and the distinction between creator and creation. Scripture declares, pneuma ho Theos esti, spirit is Theos. John 4:24. This spirit is not formless, but is the Father Spirit, the one ex autou, out of whom are all things. Jesus confirms this in John 5:21, where he says, the Father raises up the dead and quickens. And in John 6:63, it is the Spirit that quickens. The Father and the Spirit are thus synonymous, though the term spirit may be used in different contexts. The Father Spirit is corporeal and substantial, though veiled in various forms. As Paul states in 1 Timothy 6:16, the Father dwells in unapproachable light, unseen in his unveiled glory, yet veiled in flesh, as in the veil of the covering. Exodus 35:12, he can be discerned, as Jesus said, he who has seen me has seen the Father. John 14:9. This Father Spirit embodies both power and substance, a corporeal being who is the source of all existence. The Father Spirit's power implies offspring, sons of power. This son power is an emanation of the Father, embodied yet never detached from the source. It is a multiplication of the Father's essence, manifesting in many forms while remaining united in origin. This concept mirrors arithmetic, where the number 1 serves as the foundation for all other numbers. Without 1, no other numbers can exist. All are expressions of 1. This analogy underscores the indivisibility and primacy of God as the source of all things. As Deuteronomy 6:4 declares, Yahweh is one. The Pythagoreans similarly viewed the number 1 as the source of all numbers, symbolizing unity and origin. In Hebrew, a-aleph, and Greek, a-alpha, 1 signifies both beginning and unity. Scripture affirms this truth in Isaiah 44:6, I am the first and I am the last. Besides me, there is no God. The Trinity doctrine, by contrast, defies logic and arithmetic. It claims a number that is both less than 2 and more than 2, divisible by 2, yet indivisible, a conceptual impossibility. Such contradictions reveal its fallacy. The unity of Yahweh as the singular source of all is not only mathematically sound, but also biblically affirmed. The number 1, as the foundation of all mathematics, reflects God's singularity and oneness. This unity also extends to Son power, whether expressed individually or collectively. The Son is not independent, but wholly reliant on the Father power. Jesus himself declared, the Son can do nothing of himself, and I can of my own self do nothing. John 5:19-30. He emphasized that the flesh profits nothing, for as the Son of Mary, he laid no claim to power or superiority. Instead, Jesus was the veil of the covering, veiling the Father power within human form. This fleshly veil was destined to be rent, revealing the divine power that it concealed. The Son power is the manifestation of the Elohim and the Shaddai, expressions of the Father's corporeal substance and divine authority. As emanations of the One, they embody the creative and sustaining force of the universe, unified in purpose and origin. Through this understanding, we perceive the profound truth of divine oneness. All things exist ex autou, proceeding from the Father's own being, as a multiplication and manifestation of his eternal power and unity. The connection between the focal power of the universe and the embodied sons of power, as well as with all created things, is a universal principle called spirit. In the Hebrew scriptures, we find this spirit referred to in various ways, such as in Job 26:13, where it is written, by his spirit the heavens were made fair. His hand pierced the fleeing serpent. This spirit is not confined by space, filling the entire universe like water fills the seas. It is the essential, connecting principle behind all material existence. The atoms that form all physical matter, protons, neutrons, and electrons, are simply elemental condensations of this spirit. They bind the heavenly bodies and all material things to the central, focal power of the universe, unifying everything in existence. This all-pervading spirit is the principle of cohesion, attraction, and form, permeating every corner of the universe. The psalmist expresses this beautifully when he writes in Psalm 139, verse 7 to 12, saying, "Whither shall I go from thy spirit? And whither from thy face shall I flee? If I ascend into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in the depths, thou art there also. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me." This passage speaks to the omnipresence of the Father power through his Spirit. This Spirit is not limited by time or space and allows the Father power to be present everywhere simultaneously. Hence, the Father power is omnipresent and always aware of every event in creation, no matter how small or far removed. This is why, as Paul says in Acts 17:27, he is not far from every one of us. According to Moses in Numbers 16:22, the Father power is described as Al-El, the source of power, and Elohim, which refers to the distribution of divine powers. These powers, as described in the scriptures, sustain all life. Every living thing shares in this divine spirit, which connects all flesh to the Father power. The same spirit that gives life to man is also the breath of Shaddai, or the Mighty One, as Job 33:4 states. "The spirit of El has made me, and the breath of the Shaddai, or the Mighty Ones, has given me life." Without this spirit, life would cease, as Job 34:14 explains. "If he gather unto himself his spirit and his breath, all flesh shall perish together, and man shall turn again to dust." The Father power, El, is thus the source of all life and power in the universe. His life-giving force is embodied in the Elohim, which are the plural manifestations of his singular power. These Elohim, or sons of power, are divine corporeal beings emanating from the Father power, embodying a portion of his spirit and sustaining life throughout creation. The Elohim are not separate from the Father power, but are expressions of his will and power in the natural world. As the divine power is distributed among them, they represent the many facets of the one, unified Father power. The scriptures affirm that the Father power is one, though he is manifested in plural forms. The Father power is indivisible, yet it exists in various expressions, each embodying part of his spirit. As the Apostle Paul writes, "There is one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we are in him." 1 Corinthians 8:6. The plurality of the Elohim is not a division of the Father, but rather a multiplication of his singular power. Each Elohim, or son of power, is a distinct expression of the one Father power. The stars of the morning and the sons of Elohim, mentioned in Job 38:7, further illustrate this. The stars of the morning were created beings made resplendent by the Father power's spirit. These stars, as intelligences, were also called the sons of Elohim, reflecting their divine origin and connection to the Father. In Revelation 22:16, the glorified Jesus is referred to as the bright and morning star, identifying him with the primordial sons of Elohim mentioned in the book of Job. This connection reinforces the idea that the Father power, though one, is made manifest in many forms through his spirit, and that these forms collectively constitute the divine essence of Elohim. The term ban bine, meaning son, indicates that these sons are built by the Father power, and they share in his nature. As such, the Elohim are not separate from him, but rather integral parts of his expression. In conclusion, the Father power, El, is the source of all life and power. His spirit, manifesting in various forms, sustains and gives life to all things. The Elohim are embodiments of this divine power, and their existence reflects the multifaceted nature of the one Father power. These Elohim, as sons of power, embody the divine spirit in creation, ensuring the continuity and vitality of all life in the universe. This understanding of the nature of the Father power and the Elohim affirms the oneness of God, expressed in diverse forms throughout creation.